Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to know and do to finally achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. Well, we often hear now that this is not your grandparents' economy. In fact, according to a study by Opportunity Insight, this is the first time that Gen Zs and millennials, a generation, will be worse off than their parents. So, when do you need to start teaching your kids about money? What do they need to know so that their wealth opportunities are greater? Well, joining me in this episode of Get Wealthy is someone who's made it her business to do just that. So, what are the things that they don't want you to know about what it means to have money smart kids? Well, the first thing is you have to prepare your kids and your teens to manage their finances independently. Listen, they don't just listen to what we say, they watch what we do. Secondly, it's important to establish college savings funds for your kids early so that they aren't like so many students now who graduate with a ton of student loan debt. And then finally, why not give them gifts instead of toys? Give them gifts in the same companies that make the products. That's what you need to know. But on today's show, here to break it all down for us is Holly Reed. She's a certified financial educator as well as a CPA, and her own financial struggles had her create a mission as well as a company, and that she's made it her business to educate young people about the importance of learning how to master your money. The name of her company is The Master Playbook, and it is my pleasure to welcome Holly Reed to Get Wealthy. Welcome to Get Wealthy, Holly.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
I am excited to have this conversation, and I really want to begin. I always want to know, like, what is the backstory? Like, why did this professional CPA decide that she was going to focus on financial education specifically for young people?
Yes, and what a backstory it is. Listen, my parents raised me. They did what most parents do. They teach you everything they think you need to know in order to be successful. They set high expectations for me and my sisters. And let me tell you, by the time I was 23, I had pretty much met those expectations that my parents, what they set for us. And what I mean by that is I went to school, I went to college, I graduated with honors. I went on to work for one of the largest public accounting firms in the world. And then something happened. The economy tanked, right? Back then, the dot-com bubble burst. And the firm that I was working for at the time started laying people off, including little old me. And that was my wake-up moment. Like, that was my first taste of hitting rock bottom, having lost my job. I hadn't prepared, but I had been doing all the things that our America teaches us to do. So our America teaches us to enjoy the luxuries of life. It teaches us to live above our means. It teaches us not to think of our future self. And so I was following all of those instructions, doing everything that our culture, that our society encourages us to do. And when I had to crawl back to my parents, let me tell you, and ask them for some financial help until I could find my way again, until I could get another job, that was my wake-up call to say, Holly, you've got to start doing some things differently. And so that's exactly what I did. I started reading all that I could, learning all that I could. And when I managed to claw my way out of over $30,000 in debt, it was like I started preaching the debt-free gospel. I wanted everyone I knew, I wanted everyone I didn't know to know what it felt like on the other side of credit card debt, on the other side of auto loans, on the other side of student loans, because I had practically freed myself of owing everyone except my mortgage company, right? And with that, I just started talking to more people about that journey, right? And what I found was my story wasn't special. In fact, it was common. There were so many people who had had similar experiences when it came to money management, making some of the same money mistakes. And so my wheels just started churning. Like, how can we stop this from happening so often, so frequently with young professionals? And a light bulb went off. I call it my God idea, where he told me we need to start earlier. So maybe if there were some lessons that I had learned earlier in life, maybe if there was some practice that I had earlier in life, I could have avoided a lot of the financial missteps that I made once I was out on my own, making my own financial decisions.
Now that is a backstory and one that I really feel like sets the stage for this conversation. And I want to begin with mindset, right? Now, what you just described is what I call the middle class mindset. And that middle class mindset basically says that, we get all the degrees, then we get out, we get that job, and then we get out and we buy that house. And that really is what we equate with the formula for financial success. And so my first question is, what was the mindset shift that you had to make in order to turn your financial picture around?
Yeah, I think the mindset shift I personally had to make was, one, I know I needed to do something different from what everyone else was doing, right? So now I needed to figure out, what decisions do I need to make to set myself apart so that I don't have to, experience not being prepared again. So for me specifically, it was a mindset shift on like pulling back. You don't have to be like everyone else. You don't have to have all the things that everyone is saying you have to have. We are bombarded with so many marketing messages, advertising messages. And then with a young person, you compound that with peer pressure, with, temptation, with wanting to be accepted with a certain crew of people. And that just escalates even further, where people start spending their money to fit in versus spending their money where they're really setting that solid financial foundation for themselves. And so this is a mindset that I talk to parents about all the time, like things that they can do to set a different mindset with their kids is like practicing goal setting, right? Teaching them how to set achievable and realistic goals, but breaking them, of course, into those smaller steps, but just having them think about their future self differently will start shifting and exposing them to what a growth mindset feels like, what a growth mindset looks like, right?
So the question I have for you, though, because one of the comments that you made on your website that I thought was very insightful, and that is, why do you think your own parents shielded you from taking personal financial responsibility so that you found yourself in that situation?
Yeah, now that I've been in this space for almost a decade, my dad, we have had lots and lots of these conversations. So while I thought they were shielding me, my dad's perspective has been, well, he was the first generation of his family to ever use credit cards. So he was learning himself. So he didn't think about, sharing that with us. He didn't think about walking us through all the details of how it works in the background, because he was learning it himself, right? And my dad also would give me and my sisters lots of money advice. He'd tell us, Holly, you need to save your money. or Holly, don't spend all your money over here. Think about this, this, and this, right? But what was missing from that advice was the how and the why. And so that's why
Mm.
the master playbook exists, because I want to make sure you not only know the what, but you know the how and the why, and also be able to get some practice, even at very young ages. Because in my family, to be transparent, we didn't have a lot of discretionary income for us to play with, right? To us to practice and make mistakes with. My parents had to be very conservative and very clear on the things that they, wanted us to have and wanted us to experience. And they were, but it didn't involve giving us an allowance, right? To practice with. And so I'm cognizant of that and always trying to think of ways that we can give our kids exposure so they do have some practice without the risk that some families face, because we just don't have the discretionary income to spend or allocate in that way.
That's good, Holly. When we come back, you said a lot there. And one of the things that I really, really believe and have come to understand is that the knowledge of how to manage money and build wealth is inherited, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what you just conveyed, is that if your parents don't have that knowledge, they don't have what I believe is the greatest asset of all to pass on, and that's the knowledge of how to build wealth effectively. So this is so, so good. So when we come back, Holly, next I want to talk about, and you've alluded to some of them now, some specific strategies that parents can employ earlier so that their children will have that valuable asset of the knowledge of how to manage their finances effectively. So folks, when we come back, we just talked with our guest, Holly Reed, about mindset and her own mindset around money. Next, we're going to talk about the strategies that you can share with your children so that they have the right mindset and really learn what it means to manage money effectively at an early age. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now.
Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history.
Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of Black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Get Wealthy, and today we're talking about getting wealthy and helping your children at a very early age learn how to manage their finances effectively. My guest today is Holly Reed. She is the founder of the Master Playbook, which really focuses on kids between the ages of 8 and 18 and helping them be responsible financially. Holly Reed, thank you so much for joining us on Get Wealthy. And I also want to applaud you about your transparency, because that's why we created Get Wealthy, so we can have these conversations. So next I want to talk to you. You created this company, Master Playbook. What are some of the sort of unique financial challenges that you believe faces parents, and what kind of strategies can they employ about helping their children learn about money earlier?
Yes, absolutely. So as parents, one of the common things that I run into with parents across the nation is there are a lot of parents who are intimidated by finances, right? They're intimidated by money. Maybe they don't manage the household money, right? Especially some of our moms. Maybe they have made a lot of money mistakes, so they don't feel qualified to set a good example for their kids. And what I say to those parents is, listen, you don't have to have a PhD in order to start teaching your kids and talking to your kids about money management, about money matters. What you do need to do is be somewhat vulnerable, right? And you have to be intentional as well to kind of spark those money conversations. And when I say be vulnerable, I mean be willing to share some of your money mistakes, right? If that's what you have to lean on, start with the money mistakes that you have made, but don't just tell the mistake, right? Tell the lesson in the mistake, right? And our kids love stories. My dad is a great storyteller. A lot of life lessons, a lot of money lessons, even or reasons he would give us to do something a certain way was tied around a story or an experience he had. And those are the things that stuck with us and even manifested for us. So tell the story, tell the money mistake. I often joke, right? Because people think it's funny when they may have a car repo story in the back pocket where they're telling their kids about how they were moving the car around and hiding it around the block, to hide it from the repo person. And we can laugh at that. We can laugh, kiki, but tell them the lesson in that, right? Maybe you took on too much too soon, right? Maybe you got to tell them the importance of honoring your commitments and why what you were doing was wrong or dishonest or, hilarious at the time, but it wasn't the right thing. You ultimately had the car repossessed, and tell them the journey you had to go through just to get your credit back at the right place to buy another one. Or, just be open and vulnerable to tell those money mistakes, but also make sure you're telling the lesson in it as well.
Oh, that's good, because I do feel like, Holly, that we learn our lessons. The greatest lessons are from the mistakes that we made. I do have a question for you, because I know that you want to teach kids earlier. And one of the things that I found in some of the work that we've done in financial literacy is that it's one thing to teach the child, but it's wonderful, specifically if the parent doesn't have a certain level of financial literacy themselves, that is something that they could learn together. And so in the work that you're doing, specifically for our audience, what are some strategies that you have that parents and a child could get involved in, where they're both learning how to manage their money more effectively, how to be more respective, around finances?
Yes. And so one of the things that we encourage, even in our programming, so I host money camps for kids for ages 10 to 14, and then for 14 and up. And a lot of times when I'm trying to convince the parent to enroll their student, I get a lot of feedback from the parents like, well, maybe I need to come sit in the camp. And I welcome it. I'm like, come on, because that is the best way. One of the best ways to learn is starting at that lower level. You don't know what you don't know. So why not start from the beginning? And so, especially when it comes to really popular, or I'd say trending topics, like when it comes to Bitcoin or it comes to investing, like it's new to everybody. So why not take that opportunity to take a step back and let's go learn it together. Let's go buy a book that specifically talks about it. Let's go find a YouTube channel that breaks it down. Let's go look at, connect with experts like you, like me, who talk about some of these things and can really hold your hand and guide you through step by step to understand how it all works. And one of the ways that a lot of families that have worked with me are doing it is they involve the kids in family financial decisions, right? And I can hear now some parents are like, them kids don't need to know all the details. And you're right, they might not need to know all the details, but there are some things you can involve your kids in financial decisions. I have one parent who said, after attending the money camp, to keep the practice fresh, she allowed her child to manage the family's entertainment budget, right? So we set aside X number of dollars, let's say $100 every month for family entertainment, and I allow her to manage how that's going to be spent. Is it a night in and we're gonna just pay Netflix, the streaming payment every month to watch a movie together, or are we gonna go out and watch one of the newest releases that might not be available on a streaming service yet? And just including them in a decision where it's almost a democracy, because everybody has their say and their opinion and how they want it done, but pulling it all together so that it's a family financial decision. This is just one of the ways that
Holly, you know what? That is, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no,
what's brilliant, right? Like oftentimes the reason that we don't want to divulge everything as a family, and I'm going to be honest with you, I really feel that's why nobody knows how to manage their finances. Nobody wants to talk about it. Parents say, this is my money, not your money. You don't need to know about it.
So, business. Yes.
Yeah. So as a result, we send our kids out in the world and they have no semblance of how to manage any money, but not only that, the whole value of it. So I love the fact that you were able to, that parent was able to see, let's give them a portion of the budget. I think another line item on the budget that would be a great exercise for families to manage really is the food budget, right?
Absolutely.
Because if we look at the different things that we're spending our money on, probably food, and other than rent, probably food is the other way.
Yep.
One of the other biggest areas of where our money goes. The other question I have for you though is, what are parents doing now? Like I gave my children allowance, but I mean, both of my kids were working by the time they were 11. And so they could take half, they could spend what they wanted on, and half went into an investment account. And I wonder, are parents giving allowances? What do you advise parents to do so that their kids can have some sense of responsibility?
Yeah, parents are giving, I don't know if I'm calling them allowances, but parents are giving money. They're giving cash either on a regular basis or when the child asks for it. What I see parents, where the mistake is in that, is there's no accountability tied to it, right? And that's where the lessons are going to come in. That's where the practice is going to come in. And the way you include accountability is by setting expectations. So if I'm giving you $20 a month, if I'm giving you $50 a month, let's talk about what I expect you to do with that money, or how I expect that money to be used. Do you expect them to save a portion? I would want them to save and invest a portion. Do you expect them to buy certain things so that they don't come to you for it, right? So maybe there is a specific want, like the latest sneakers, or, okay, you need to learn and practice to save up. I'm giving you $20 a week. It's your choice on how you decide to use that money for the things that you really want, but aren't necessarily needed, right? They aren't essential to your everyday schooling, essential to your everyday livelihood. So think about those things. I even have parents, because a lot of my parents, some of their kids are in private schools. They have this new thing now with private schools. When they go to lunch, there's not like the set menu. These kids got choices. They can get a smoothie. They can go get a chicken wrap. They can go get,
What this is amazing to me, though, Holly, is that and here's where I think, and what I see in families, what I think has gone wrong, and even if I had it to do over with my own children, I might approach it a little differently, although they would say that I was really, kind of, what do I want to say, strict, and, and expectations were high, just around them managing. But I do feel like, and I wonder if you feel this way too, is that we have tried to create this middle class nirvana for our children because we don't want them to struggle like we did, right? But what we don't realize is that you can't value what you don't earn. And
Right.
So as a result, they're going out of this world and they have no semblance of reality.
Right. And the door seems to always be open to come back to the parent when there's a need that needs to be met, right? So that's where it's going to be important to set that expectation, to have them practice. And I say there's nothing wrong with giving your kids. That's the goal of most parents. We want our kids to have more than what we had, experience more, not experience the struggle. But the important element of that is give all you want, but also give them the blueprint, give them the playbook on how to grow the money, how to.
Okay, but you know what? We're gonna agree to disagree, because I believe that struggle is good, right? Now I know there may be some parents out here who would argue with me, but the honest to God truth is you do not value what you don't earn. It's impossible. So when we're gonna go back, we're gonna put a pin on that one, Holly, and when we come back, I want to get into execution. What are the things that parents can actually do to have their children become more responsible around their finances? Folks, in our next segment, it's all about execution. And now we've covered mindset, we've covered strategies that you can employ to get your children involved in the personal finances of the family. Next, we're talking about how you can execute on those strategies. Don't go anywhere in our next segment.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now, we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $8.6 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.
Welcome back, everyone. It's all about execution. You've been watching Get Wealthy, and I've been having a fascinating conversation with Holly Wood. She is the CEO and founder of the Master Playbook, and she's teaching children between the ages of 8 and 18 how to manage their money effectively. Holly, thanks so much for coming on today. And I know that we've kind of covered a lot of ground: mindset, strategy. Now I want to talk about execution. We've talked a little bit. I love the example that you gave about a parent going through one of your money camps and actually giving one of the children the responsibility of managing the entertainment book. However, where would you start? I mean, how early is it to begin teaching your child about money? And give us an example of how you might start.
Yep. So you can start as early as 4 years old, right? You don't have to wait until they're teenagers. The goal is to start talking about money and money concepts early and often. And so when I say 4 years old, one of the concepts you want to make sure your child understands is the relationship between working hard and being rewarded, right? So no work, no reward, no work, no money, right? And so as early as 4 years old, you can include them in things like the laundry. You're doing the laundry, their job is to pair the socks, right? And so when they pair all the socks, they do it well, they do it correctly, then the reward, it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be their favorite treat or more screen time or, inviting a friend over, whatever the case is. But you want to start setting that expectation of connecting those two dots between the work that they do and the reward. And they'll start to see it like in school. You work hard as a student, you be a scholar, your reward is good grades, your reward is recognition, your reward is being able to participate on the sports team, because you got to have a certain grade level, right, in order to represent the school in different sports activities. But just making that very clear that as a member of the household, your first job is to be a contributing member. And that looks like chores, so that when it is done, it allows the whole household to run just a little bit smoother, right?
That is so good, Holly. And here's why. It's interesting. I love telling this story, but when I went into management training, I'm grown now, right? I was in management training with a suite mate at the time, because we lived in this house together. And everything that we had to do, whether it's we had to pass a test or we had to get a new certification, or if there was some goal attached to it, she always had some kind of physical reward. She'd say, okay, here's the Snicker bar. And when we have studied for an hour and passed at least by 80%, not until then could we have the Snicker bar. And this went on and on and on. And I asked her, I said, well, why do you have all these tangible, it worked. Let me just say that. And I said, where did you, she said, well, that's how my father taught us. And her father, guess what, was in the military.
No.
And the truth is that she was one of the highest performing managers in that organization. And I really believe it's because she learned the exact example you just gave, and that is the relationship, right, between effort and reward. So that's good stuff, Holly. Give us another example, though, of another maybe specific experience with a parent that you've had that you feel worked really well, because that's what I feel like. We can always give advice, but when someone really, applies it and then gets a really good result, I always feel like those are the best strategies.
Absolutely. That's why we got to start talking about this stuff to see what are you doing in your home, what's working for you. Another good example is you got to make sure your kids have some skin in the game, right? So you want to attach money lessons to things that they care about, right? It's a whole bunch of stuff they don't care about. But when you start thinking about life milestones, maybe it's them going after their first job, or them preparing for prom, or for them, starting to date, right? These are things that they care about. And there are so many money lessons you can pack into all of these things. So say, for example, there's something that your child really wants. They've been begging you for this thing. We want to make sure they got some skin in the game. And the way you do that is you can challenge them. If you save a certain amount, if you save 50% of the cost of the item, I'll reward you. I'll match it and give you the other 50%. Or you save 70%, I'll give you the 30%. That's totally up to you. But just making sure that they have some skin in the game so that they can really appreciate, and understand what it feels like to exercise self-control and patience and delayed gratification when it comes to something that they really want, that it's not always given to them. But like you said, they got to earn it, and then they will have more appreciation for it. Even if you match, up to half, or you match the remaining 30% or whatever you decide to do, that has seemed to be really effective, especially when it comes to our kids and they're asking for gimme, gimme, gimme.
That's good. I mean, if you think about it, is the human condition, right? It's always with them. What's in it for me? And when you can attach what someone desires to them accomplishing the goal that's set out. I told this story. Another story is my best leader. That's what he was able to do to manage people, was find out what it is you wanted and how he could align whatever the goals and objectives of the organizations was to your objective. And so finally, Holly, I read this and I was just taken aback by it. And it's that at 3 years old, your relationship, toddlers know about, have already kind of put a relationship to money and seeing it being rewarded. And then by 7, they've already established their money habits toward their habits around money. And so to that end, one of the things you said was, you can start as early as 4 as teaching them those lessons. And we talked about the relationship between effort and reward as well, that being a positive. My other question to you is just around the habits. I know that you wrote a book, right? And it's the 5 money habits for every child. Just briefly, give us a couple of those habits that as a takeaway for parents to understand the kinds of behaviors that they want to instill in their children around money.
Absolutely. So we've covered work hard and be rewarded, right? The next one is going to be save first and consistently. And that's that whole experience around delayed gratification, because this is probably one of the most important money habits to master, but also one of the most difficult, because we live in this society where everything is instantaneous. I mean, I can literally press a button on my phone and the food arrives in 30 minutes, or I press a button on my phone and the package arrives the very next day. So we know that practicing delayed gratification is kind of the foundational skill set when it comes to being able to save. Saving is the foundation to investing. And so that's a critical one that you have to start practicing with your kids earlier. The third money habit is to spend wisely and consciously, right? We don't have to give our kids a lesson on spending money. They know how to do that. We want them to think it through and understand the difference between needs and wants, understand how they need to allocate the money, right? Creating that spending plan, that budget, but also consciously is what you're spending your money on, something that aligns with your values, something that is, when you look at where you're spending money, is that company, is that brand supportive of you, supportive of Black and brown people, supportive of the things that you care about most. So just raising their consciousness to kind of look at spending money and owning and recognizing the power that they have with the dollars that they spend. We talk about using credit responsibly. And I get this all the time. Parents are like, Holly, why are you talking to kids about credit cards? And it's because our kids because money is becoming invisible, right? At early ages, we introduce our kids to gift cards, right? Gift cards are just credit cards with training wheels. They're teaching our kids how to keep track of the money on the card. It's teaching our kids how to dip, swipe, tap to make the transaction. They get a quick lesson on taxes with gift cards. So it's already introducing it to us. You couple that with what they see us do every day, how they see us use the money every day, and you would be surprised at how many high school students, high school scholars don't know the difference between a debit and a credit card. So it's important for us to take a step back and make sure they understand what credit is, how it works, what are the consequences before they are even eligible to have one alone or independently in their own name. And then finally,
I'm sorry. Go right ahead. Finish.
No, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
The final money habit is to give generously. So talking to our kids, we don't just want to raise money savvy kids. We want to raise kids with a heart, with compassion, with empathy. So talking to them about the importance of giving back, helping others, how that brings joy to you as an individual, but also builds stronger communities. So those are the 5 money habits.
This is so good. And when, you know, because you feel oftentimes that, you know, they'll get to that. They'll learn how to be responsible in the future when in fact they're watching you and they're learning their attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. I got to tell you, when someone said, when I read that stat that at 7 years old, they've already developed their money habits, I thought, wow. But then I started to think about my own life, and at a very young age, I wanted to have my own money. I didn't want to have to ask anybody anything. And so if you think about it, our beliefs and habits around money are very early. So, Holly, we've covered a lot of ground today. And when we come back, it's our Analyze, Optimize, Maximize segment. And so I want you to think about it as a lightning round, right? We've covered a lot of ground. Now I want you to be able to offer our audience sort of a primer, if you will, on how they're going to take this information and take action with it. So, folks, when we come back, it's Analyze, Optimize, Maximize. What are the things that you need to do, your takeaways from this show that you can put into action right away? We'll be right back with Holly Reed in just a moment.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and we're getting wealthy today, but we're teaching our kids how to get wealthy and how to be responsible around their finances. My guest today, Holly Reed, she is the founder of the Master Playbook, and boy, she's been showing us how to master our money and teach our kids how to master our money. Holly, this has been so enlightening for me, you know, just in terms of understanding the challenges that parents are having in this kind of economy that is, I love what you said, invisible. To that end, I want to talk, this is our Analyze, Optimize, and Maximize round, but there's one perspective that I'd love to hear from you at the beginning of this, and that is, you talked about debit cards, you talked about credit cards. How do you feel now they have all of these different programs where you can put your kids' allowance on a debit card, or parents are doing this? What do you think the impact of that is on children? And is it a good idea in your eyes?
Yeah, I honestly feel like we don't have a choice. Like, technology has made so many advancements. It is the way of the world. So you have to start incorporating it. You have to start using technology. But again, attaching that lesson, attaching those conversations, those discussions. And I'm not just talking lecturing to your kids, but asking them questions to make sure that they understand it, right? We often lecture a lot and expect our kids are mastering the information. But when you start asking open-ended questions, that's when you can see where the gaps may be. Okay, do they really understand how it works? So I say go for it with using the technology, but also make sure you are doing it safely, putting parameters, setting expectations so that they don't just go ballistic and they are using the technology for what it's meant for, but also have an understanding of what are my mom's expectations, my dad's expectations, what are my limits, and not finding out after the fact, after the line has been crossed, after the boundary has been crossed. Think through what are the expectations and then what are the consequences of when those boundaries are crossed or broken.
You know, the other question I have for you, Holly, as well in this segment is just around analyze. So if I'm watching this show and I'm thinking about, you know, I'm making all the mistakes that Holly talked about today. If someone were to look at their situation, where would they start?
Yeah, I would start just by making it fun. So if you are in a situation where maybe you don't have the discretionary income, one of the very first things you could do is start engaging your kids by the games that are available. And I'm talking, take it back old school to the board games, Monopoly, right? Life. All of those games, board games, have money lessons included that could really ease you into and start talking theoretically about how things work, right? Now, if you are someone who has some discretionary funds, and then I would recommend, you know, doing the allowance, but making sure it has that accountability piece to it, that consequences piece. And one of the consequences could be, oh, you didn't complete XYZ as we agreed. Then you know what? Instead of the $10, I'm deducting $1 for every chore you didn't complete, everything you did that wasn't a part of this agreement. So that's why setting these expectations, having these money conversations versus just giving $10, $20 a week frivolously it's going to be more worthwhile when you have these conversations and set the expectations along with it.
That's good. You know, the other aspect of this is optimizing. I love what you said about those games, because if you think about it, Monopoly really did have it right? Like first you buy the one little house and then you use that to leverage and buy more houses. Man, if we really, you know, go around the community chest, collect dividends, there's a lesson then that you can, well, what are dividends? Where dividends are with stocks. So bravo, Holly, that is a good one. So let's talk about optimizing. You know, in my mind, I think what I wish I had done better, even with my own children, is even as we went out shopping or that we went in the grocery store, that we did have conversations about, oh, hey, you take this calculator, let's check out how much we're spending, right? This is our budget. That might be a way of exposing children at an earlier age to real life situations. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. It's a perfect way. You want to look for these everyday opportunities. So that could be the grocery shopping, right? Or paying a bill. But these are all great opportunities to talk about budgeting, to talk about saving money, to talk about comparison shopping, right? To ultimately help your kids be able to make these smart financial decisions. The thing is, with these everyday opportunities, you also have to be consistent, right? Consistency is going to be the key across all of this. And just like I know a lot of money experts tell married couples, you know, set a budget date where you sit down. Think about the same thing with your kids. Set a regular schedule for talking about money and stick to it. This can be weekly, it can be a monthly family meeting where you're talking about finances, where you're talking about financial goals, right? But you want to do so, involve the whole family, make it a whole family exercise so nobody is left out, everybody is getting the information, but they can also bring their questions and their different perspectives to the table as well.
A perfect, what we hear and when we're talking about wealth, or I've heard people say that, the issue is we're not talking about money around the table. It's not a conversation that is happening in our family. So as a result, those conversations aren't going on. So, I thought about something else as well, Holly, and that is from a maximized perspective. Our kids are getting older, or as kids get older, I think we've talked about chores, but what we haven't talked about is the entrepreneurial side of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we may not have that discretionary income, but what do you think we could do as parents to plant that seed of entrepreneurship? Now there are all ways you can make money, online. What are your thoughts on helping our kids become entrepreneurs at an early age?
Yes. So you have to start talking about it, right? Start pointing out different entrepreneurs that are in close proximity and helping the child understand what it is they do. We want to raise owners, right? We want them to earn their own money. And so one of the ways that I really encourage parents to do is take an inventory of what are the things that your kids are interested in. Going back to that interest, what do they have a natural affinity towards? What are their skill sets? And then start talking to them about ways they can monetize it. Maybe they're really good with technology and they're the person in the family or the sibling in the family that when the TV goes out or when the computer isn't working correctly, everybody's like, hey, John, I need you to come take a look at this. Help me problem solve, right? So how can you monetize that? Maybe they enjoy drawing. They're really artistic and they could go into graphic design. So you, as the parent, it's really important to just start paying attention to what are the things they gravitate towards, what are the things they say they're interested in, and don't be afraid to nurture that, to go a little further, to look into programs, whether it's coding or graphic design or whatever it is, ballet, whatever it is their interest is in, and helping to push them just a little bit to see if it's something that's really going to stick. But when you look at kid entrepreneurs, and let me tell you, we are living in a different time where, like you said, all you need now is a smartphone and a YouTube channel, and you really could start a business, start monetizing your skills, monetizing the things that they enjoy doing. There are so many YouTube channels where kids are simply unboxing toys and giving their reaction to it, right? Or they are playing a video game and unlocking different levels on a video game and getting paid by brands to do it. So you can do a simple Google search on kidpreneurs and then maybe add the subject of something that your child is interested in, jewelry maker, bath bombs, all the things. And you can really start diving into the backstories of these kids. And I'll tell you, one consistent thing that's going to be there is the parent support, the parent nurturing the child along the way, helping them to think through how it could be monetized, and really just taking leaps of faith to push the button, to push the go button and start making some money with their kids.
Holly, what I love about this conversation is I started out talking about the fact that millennials and Gen Xers, right, could be in a situation where they're going to earn less than what their parents did in a traditional role, right? However, I believe this is a new frontier, and that this is not our, and really, if you look at the secrets of the wealthy, one of the things that you begin to understand, and that I understood in working with high net worth clients, is most of our wealthiest clients did have businesses, right? So when they sent their kids to college, it was to learn how to run a business, not being an employee. And so I do believe that for this next generation, really instilling in them that there are all different ways to create wealth, and you're not just in a box. And the most important thing you said in all of that, in that last segment, I believe, is what are their innate gift and talents? What are they already gifted at? That really could be the secret, right, to them becoming an entrepreneur. Holly, just leave us with one closing comment for our parents to inspire them.
Yes, I say this all the time. It's difficult to master what you've never been taught. And so we as parents want the very best for our young people. And I want you to be able to give it to them. But don't just hand it over. You've got to give them the playbook to go along with it so that they can continue to grow, develop, and even reach millionaire status far faster than a lot of us could have done working in a silo and starting from scratch like a lot of us have done. So keep doing what you're doing, parents. It's never too late. So I just encourage you, let's connect. If you need a guide, you're looking for someone to help you along this journey, I invite you to join our financial literacy movement as we work to close the education gap and, more importantly, close the wealth gap that exists.
Excellent. Well, Holly, we're going to make sure we put your website information on, let all of our audience and viewers know exactly how they can contact you and learn more about your money camp for kids. Holly Reed, founder of the Master Playbook. Thanks so much for coming on Get Wealthy today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. When we come back, the 3 takeaways from today's show. Folks, don't go anywhere.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone. So here are the 3 takeaways from today's show, right out of Holly Reed's Money Habits. The first, save early and consistently. That's what we want to teach our children. Second, to understand the relationship between effort and reward. And then finally, spend wisely and consciously. Thanks for coming on Get Wealthy today. Make sure you share this with your children so that we can build financially responsible children and that they can build wealth into the future. Thanks for joining us today, right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.